Terry, and this is Jordyn, and she was born January 26th, and 9 pounds 4 ounces. And the first week I thought, oh my gosh, this baby is a dream baby. She doesn't spit up, she doesn't cry, I can burp her without a burp cloth handy, and she's my 3rd child. And my daughter, when she was born 8.5 years ago, was diagnosed with acid reflux, and everything changed. She had to sleep in a kind of upright position for the first 4 months of her life, and she spit up constantly, projectile vomit, everything. And so when I didn't have this with Jordyn, I thought, oh, this is going to be a piece of cake. And then after the first week, everything changed, and she started spitting up more, and she just got incredibly fussy. And it started in the evening, about 8, 9 o'clock at night. She'd get real fussy, and just nothing would help. She was just inconsolable, and we just worked through it and dealt with it for a couple hours, and then it'd go away and she'd go to sleep. And then it started to be a couple times, a couple feedings in the evening, and this would happen, and then it was more and more frequent, and the spit up was more and more constant, and it got to be where she was just crying and fussing and almost the entire time she was awake. And those moments where, she'd be awake for 30 minutes before, and she'd look at you and kind of look around the room and stare at the ceiling fan, she quit doing that. If she was awake, she was either eating or crying. And this is my husband's first baby, and I remember him asking me, is this normal? You've had 2 other kids. Is this what they do? And I said, it's been so long, but I don't remember it being this bad. And I started like, what's going on? I couldn't figure it out. And so I called the doctor and asked them, and she said, she shouldn't be crying like that, bring her in. And so I brought her into the doctor, and they said it's acid reflux. And there was no exam or anything that they did. I just talked to them about her symptoms and her spitting up and crying and fussing, and they said acid reflux, and they said we're going to put her on Zantac 3 times a day and see if that helps, and if that doesn't help, then we may need to do an ultrasound and do a surgical procedure on this other valve or muscle in her body and try and correct it. And so I told my husband, we started the Zantac, and I said, I'm not really comfortable with this because it's not, she's not spinning up a lot, it's just, she's just fussy all the time. And I said, but I don't want to do surgery either, so let's just do the Zantac and see how it goes. And so we were doing the Zantac 3 times a day, and still didn't notice a difference, and she was just still fussing all the time. And I was talking to my friend Sarah, and she was asking how Jordyn was doing, and I said, she's doing good. She's, just fussing constantly, and, yeah, she'd cry if I let her keep going, but I'd just pick her up, and I would just walk around, and I would hold her, and I would bounce her, and I would put her in the swing, and just anything, drive around in a car with her to get her to just not fuss. And I remember, sleeping propped up in bed with her on my chest, and I'd start to fall asleep, and then she'd fuss, and I just was getting no sleep. And so she goes, my friend Sarah said, so I didn't tell you about what we did with our baby? And I said, no. And she said, oh, I've got to tell you about Dr. Sharonberg. And she sent me all the information, and I got online and I looked at his website, and just going through the checklists and of colic symptoms and everything. I said, oh my gosh, she's got 75% of these. And my husband and I were talking, and he goes, well, isn't some of those just normal baby things? And I said, maybe, but she has so many of them. And so then we started reading around on the website, and I kind of had it in the back of my mind, but I still didn't do anything about it. And a couple more days went by, and my friend Sarah said, have you called the doctor yet? She's like, I know he's in Wichita and you're in Kansas City, but just, call him, even if you just talk to him on the phone. And I was like, he's a doctor, he's not going to talk to me on the phone. And she's like, he'll talk to you on the phone, he'll Skype with you, whatever, just give him a call and just talk to him and tell him what she's going through and see what he says. And so I talked to my husband, and we decided to call Dr. Scherenberg, and I talked to him right away, and I talked to his office, and she said, he's with someone, he'll call you back. And he called me back right away, and I didn't get to my phone in time, and he left a voicemail, and it was pretty late in the evening. That's not a good time to be on the phone with her because she fusses, and I couldn't even talk on the phone, and I'd have family members call and say, leave me voicemails, and I'd just call back the next day because I couldn't be on the phone and have to deal with her. And so I called him back in the morning and talked to him on the phone for a little while, and I just said, let's do it. I said, I'm ready. And he said, well, how soon do you want to start treatment? And this was Friday morning, and I knew I was going back to work Monday after being off for 6 weeks with her, and so I said, well, ideally I'd like to have started treatment yesterday. And he's like, well, come on in this afternoon, we'll get you in. And I just thought, how can a doctor get me in the same day? And so I made arrangements and got in the car, and we drove down here, and he saw her Friday, he saw her Saturday twice, he saw her Sunday twice, and Monday, and now we're on Tuesday, and she's just like a whole different baby. Everything he said would happen happened. He said, from day one, this is what's going to happen. He said at a certain point she's going to drop back to some of her symptoms, and you're going to think, oh my gosh, this isn't working. And he said, you just work through it and it'll get better. And sure enough, that happened, and I thought, oh my gosh, this isn't working. I'm going to pack up and go back to Kansas City. This just isn't working. And we made it through it, and we came back, and he treated her some more, and it's just, she's so content. I mean, she is just like a different baby, and I feel like I can go to places in public. We can go to Walmart and shop around, and she's not going to scream her head off, and I can talk to people on the phone evenings, and she's not going to scream. And I used to tell people, I can't go under 45 miles an hour in the car. I have to go fast because otherwise she'll cry. And if I stop at a stoplight, she'll start crying. She doesn't do that anymore. She lets me put her in a car seat. She doesn't cry. She lets me change her diaper, and she doesn't cry. She's just so content, and I just think, why did I wait so long? I should have done this sooner. And it's just makes you feel complete to know that your baby is content and happy. And I said I wasn't going to get emotional, but it's just to feel like you did everything you could as a parent. I would definitely recommend this to anybody, even if you don't think your baby is colic and it's your third child and you think you know what you're doing. Just call the doctor and talk to him and just try it, because it's not worth your child suffering. If there's a solution, and there is,